Nice to see you there. My name is Owen Robertson, and I'm a student leader this year. I have some announcements for you. Fall Fest, s'mores and more. Sunday, October 23rd, 5 p.m. Mark that down on your calendar. We'd love to see you there. Meet us, a bunch of other people, on the Kesslinger campus lawn for campfires, axe throwing, human foosball, inflatables, and so much more. We're even going to have a game of human football, not animal football, not tractor football, human football. It's going to be great. With D group leaders versus students. Again, interesting to see how that comes out. We got some major power players. This is a great opportunity to invite friends or to just come as a D group. Either way, we'd love to see you there. Anyways, on to some more announcements.
Hey guys, Fall Retreat, save the date. It's October 29th through the 30th, and this year we're going to Lake Geneva. Registration is open now, so go to the either Chapel Street website or the link in the Instagram bio and get registered for that. Also, make sure that you look at our Instagram because we have updates throughout the next couple weeks of what will be expected on the retreat. Follow us on Instagram so you can see all those updates, and now pass it on to Tom.
Well, hey guys, I know some of you know my daughter Raylan. Here's a quick photo of her from her second birthday party a couple of weeks ago. She loves hanging out with you guys at D Group, and like you see, just turned 2 a couple weeks ago. And I'll tell you what, that girl loves to have fun. When she was just a little bit younger, maybe about like a year ago or so, one of her favorite things to do is when I'd be playing with her and I'd pick her up by the ankles and hold her upside down, and she'd laugh and giggle and just would have like the best time ever, and she'd want to do it again and again and again. But as she's gotten a little bit older, for some reason, I'm not really sure why, but she's become terrified of being upside down. I don't really ever do it on purpose anymore, but even like if for any reason her head starts to tilt back even just a little bit, she starts to kind of like freak out and immediately wants to be flipped right side up. And tonight, as we continue in our D Group series called Anomaly, we're going to be talking about how as followers of Jesus, we're called and instructed to live in the world and respond to the world in a way that those around us might look at us and think that's a little bit upside down. In your groups tonight, you're going to be continuing to dig into Luke chapter 6, and we'll be looking at an important teaching that Jesus gives to his followers. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to briefly share with you something that I've been thinking about and something that's really been shaping me as I've been studying Luke chapter 6 and been preparing this series for us. And to do so, I want to share with you just a quick quote from Andy Stanley, who's a pastor in Atlanta and somebody I heard speak at an event earlier this summer. Andy Stanley says that following Jesus looks and sounds a lot like Jesus. Let me say that again. Following Jesus looks and sounds a lot like Jesus. Now, my guess is that when you hear that, you probably agree with it, at least for the most part. Like, it kind of just makes sense, right? Jesus says that we should follow him. He came to earth. He lived a perfect life. And so, of course, following Jesus means that we should aim to live as Jesus lived. But I think if I'm honest with myself, and my guess is if you're honest with yourself, we sometimes have a tendency to kind of want to pick and choose what following Jesus really looks like. What it looks like to me, what it looks like to you. For example, we know that Jesus tells us that we should forgive others. And we see lots of examples all throughout the Gospels of Jesus forgiving people. And likely there's been things in your life that you've been able to forgive others for, and things that you've been forgiven by others for as well. But what about when you don't really want to offer forgiveness? What happens when you're kind of having a hard time of letting something go? I think that sometimes it can be kind of tempting to pick and choose what following Jesus looks like in a situation like that. To decide that it seems easier, or maybe it would feel a little bit better to hold on to some type of grudge, right? To offer judgment instead of forgiveness, even if that's not what we see when we look at the life of Jesus. Or maybe think about it through the lens of how you respond to those around you. If you look at Jesus and in his life, you see all kinds of examples of him responding to difficult circumstances with extreme grace and humility. But what would happen if, for example, you experienced some type of resistance in your life, maybe because of your faith? How would you respond to something like that? Would you feel some tension to try to choose to separate yourself from Jesus or downplay your faith? Would it be tempting at all maybe to respond or to react in a somewhat defensive or even attacking way? See what happens when you try to pick and choose what following Jesus looks and sounds like? See, when we do that, we're not really following Jesus, we're following something else. And in my life, it's usually me following myself, right? Following my desires, my agenda, following what I want. But all throughout the Gospels, we see a clear picture of what Jesus looks like and what Jesus sounds like. Jesus looks and sounds like grace. And yet at the same time, Jesus also looks and sounds like truth. And there's a really beautiful tension there. Jesus also looks and sounds like compassion, forgiveness, mercy, humility, gentleness, sacrificial love. See, this is the model that Jesus calls us to follow. These are the markers of what it really looks like to deviate from the norm and follow Jesus. And listen, I'll tell you, following Jesus, living as an anomaly, as we've talked about in this series, won't be easy. That's why we're talking about it. It also won't look normal to the world around you. In fact, the way of Jesus is talked about often as the upside down kingdom, where the things that are valued in the world are actually the opposite of what truly matters to Jesus. You see, following Jesus seems upside down to the world around us. And it may even at times feel a bit disorienting to us. Just like Raylan, we may prefer to be flipped right side up because being upside down can be hard and it can be scary. And tonight, as we dig into Luke 6, you'll see Jesus talk about this very thing. And in the midst of all of it, my hope and my prayer is that this is a conversation where we're really able to learn more about what it truly looks and sounds like to follow Jesus. Because that's what I'm after in my life, and I pray that the same is true for you as well. So I'll let your leaders take things from here. I hope you guys have a great time in your groups tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week back at Kesslinger campus as we wrap this series up by hearing from my friend and special guest speaker, Aubrey Sampson. I love you guys, and we'll see you soon.